Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and oh, that new Star Wars Outlaws game seems to have come out. And what if I told you that it is mediocre Ubisoft gaming? Mediocre quadruple A gaming. I think it's a quadruple A. Could be a triple A. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what the difference is other than a storefront. But to be real with you, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen a lot of interesting reviews on the internet. I've seen a lot of YouTubers talk about this game, and it hasn't been pretty. A lot of people have said, "Ooh, this game's a pile of dog water." But I've seen the Metacritic reviews. 77 ain't that bad. It's actually more than okay, all right? Usually a 7 out of 10 game is an okay game. It might be mediocre, but it's not awful. And you can do a lot better than purchasing an actual dog water game, okay? There's plenty of them out there. Have you ever heard of a game called Left Alive? All right? It's lucky that I was left alive of actual functioning brain matter after playing that title. But you know what? Star Wars Outlaws is one of these recent titles, and I'm going to give it one little bit of praise, okay? This might not sound like much, but when your game is like less than 60 gigabytes in size, I appreciate it, okay? There's a lot of games these days that have to be over 150 gigs and chew up my hard drive, so I'll give them that praise right there. Now, of course, Star Wars Outlaws is like a game in the Star Wars universe that doesn't have anything to do with using the Force or lightsabers or anything of that nature, okay? It has you basically being an outlaw. So you play as an actual outlaw in the game, Vess, who's like, basically thrust into a world of heisting, and they have to basically take the ultimate heist in order to pay their way out and basically live a life free and in actual relative, lavishness, so to speak. That's pretty much where the story goes. It's an open world Star Wars game where they have 5 unique areas. I think it's actually more 4, maybe 5. I haven't made it that far into the game. I've really just made it to Beyond Mos Eisley, the second actual area. But I think I've played the game enough to give a proper, succinct understanding and review of what you're about to experience. So each of these locations, if you open up the map in the video game, they're pretty sizable locations, like a few square kilometers spread apart. So there's a fair amount of things to do in each of these locations, and you'll be on speeder, basically going back and forth between multiple different towns and settlements. So I want to start off by saying, if you're somebody that loves playing video games and getting immersed and basically going on a digital vacation, this game is actually pretty good, okay? Every single town and settlement that I've went to feels alive. It's got people walking around. It's got, stormtroopers, walking around, being stormtroopers. It's got criminals being criminals and people living in fucking squalor. It is Star Wars to a T. So if you're somebody that enjoys just walking around and experiencing towns, if you ever played Red Dead Redemption 2 and you think, man, I really like enjoying walking around Saint Denis and all these small areas, then I think you'll actually quite enjoy that aspect of this video game. It pretty much is the one thing that really speaks out. In fact, for the most part, if you're somebody that enjoys Star Wars, then you'll probably love all the attention to detail that each of these locations get. Now, I'm not the biggest Star Wars person imaginable. I've watched, the original 3 movies. I hate saying that I watched the prequel trilogies, but I made it through the Trade Federation bullshit. And I've watched the more recent movies. So yeah, I've watched the mainline Star Wars stuff. And there were moments in this that I honestly felt like, yeah, I remember that. I recognize that. I hit the member berries. Like when you walk into Mos Eisley and you can actually see where good old Han Solo fired the shot in the old cantina. That all is actually reflected pretty well in the video game. And if you're somebody that's a super big Star Wars person, you'll probably be soy-jacking at a lot of the actual callbacks that they have. So it actually does appear to be made by a team of developers that give a shit about the Star Wars IP, and it reflects in the environments and the locations you go to. Now, this is where, again, most of my praise is going to stop, all right? Yeah, it looks nice, it looks cool, but let's get to the fucking gameplay, Muda. The gameplay is what matters. So this is a stealth-oriented action-adventure title. Now, I played a lot of stealth games in my day. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, played some Metal Gear Solid 3, played some Thief. All right, I played the best of the best. And I'll tell you something right now. I'm going to play a clip for you right here. This is an Imperial base, okay? You've got 3 stormtroopers guarding the front of said base. Now, the stealth is so good in this game that you can basically just sneak through the front door, beeline it to your objective, and not a single soul in sight will stop you. So I thought, whoa, maybe I'm not playing on a hard enough difficulty. No, I was playing on like the second hardest difficulty. Okay, there was maybe one option above, but there was nothing that was going to alter the artificial intelligence into actually, doing anything in my favor. Now, again, or anything in their favor. So when it comes to the actual stealth mechanics, it is about as impressive as stealth as something you'd find in an Uncharted game from PlayStation 3 days. And no, I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic. It literally feels like the actual stealth gameplay taken from Uncharted. In fact, most of the actual gameplay, when you're traversing, when you're shooting, when you're really doing anything, comes from Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4. In fact, I honestly feel that this was probably developed in a way by Naughty Dog. It's a really fun movie game, but when it comes to the stealth and the stealth action gameplay, you're not going to get anything that resembles Splinter Cell or, the light and dark gameplay of Thief, or you're not going to get anything that, reflects anything tangible in terms. If you're a stealth action gamer, this is not going to be something for you. This is like more a casual gamer's idea of what stealth action is. Now, when it comes to actual, physical shooting combat, there is only a few options you have. So you can go hand to hand, fist to fist, which, that's fine. You got the blaster, which you can upgrade with multiple different things throughout the course of the game, which that is the only weapon you are allowed to keep on you at any given moment. Now, you can pick up blasters and sniper rifles from around the battlefield and use them, and they're really fun to use. The only key problem with that is you can't carry them everywhere. So whenever you got to interact with a ladder or go into like a vent, you somehow lose the capacity to bring a weapon with you. Now, I don't know in Outlaw School if they didn't teach you that you can bring stuff with you, but yeah, it just takes, it makes no real sense why an outlaw such as myself can't just sling the blaster on my back and run with it as an extra weapon to have. I don't know why I can't even deploy with a weapon, or I can't even bring one and customize it. Because it would be, they have all these different weapons. They have grenade launchers, sniper rifles, blasters. You can't just bring them with you and use them or even customize them to an extent. So, I'm not expecting Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain levels of gameplay here, but god damn, at least let me have the option. If I want to go loud, I should be able to go loud. So aside from that, they've got a ship section where you have some basic ship maneuvering and combat in space, but it's nothing too terribly exciting in my opinion. Like, it's about as riveting as No Man's Sky combat, which is basically latch onto an item or enemy, hold a targeting computer, and just basically pew 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 win a battle. Now, there is a wanted system in the video game. So yeah, because it's a crime game, you can get, hunted by the Imperials. You can get hunted by the Galactic Federation, the Galactic Imperial group. And the thing about it is, so the wanted rating works like this. It gives you a giant thing that says you're being hunted, you're being wanted, whatever. On the top left, you have basically the Galactic Empire's logo that fills up quadrants as you get more hunted. And I believe, my experience, by the time you get to the last stages on the ground, they can actually send a death squad after you. And that goes for all the other gangs that you piss off and make friends with in the games. So it's pretty cool. I will say, on the harder difficulties, it is an absolute nuisance to get rid of any of these wanted ratings. It's actually easier to just die, lose a little bit of your money, and just come back into the game. It just becomes that annoying. I don't know why, but trying to lose the Empire, even though that they weren't chasing me at certain points, it just was not cooling down. Now, when it comes to a game known as Star Wars Outlaws, what I find really insane is you can't really be killing civilians. Now, I'm not asking for Grand Theft Auto 5 in space, but if you're going to give me the option to be a criminal, why can't I rob the innocent? Why can't I make fat stacks being an actual outlaw? I get the game is rated T for teen, so maybe they couldn't get away with just shooting a goddamn alien straight in the face and Mos Eisley. But don't try to bill your game like this if you don't give me basic, freedoms to do so. I mean, literally, you cannot steal from anyone that isn't a criminal or, somebody that belongs to the Galactic Empire. And I think that has more to do with the fact that they want your character to be this overall net good. But, I mean, if you're making a game about crime, you should at least give me the option to commit fucking crimes, I would say. When it comes to the actual gameplay, it is about as standard Ubisoft open world as you're going to get, but it is the better of the Ubisoft open worlds. So alongside your actual main missions, you're going to have a bunch of side stuff, collectathon checklists to go after, but it seems like every big upgrade or something is tied behind a lore reason, and there's, actual thought and cutscenes put towards things. So it doesn't feel like you're just checking things off. It really feels like every single thing you're hunting down actually ties into a loop and actually upgrades specific items. So that is something I do enjoy seeing. It is ultimately still a Ubisoft open world, but I think it's the better of the Ubisoft open worlds because every single item that I end up finding gives me a reason to go hunt it down. Even if I don't need to upgrade that specific item, I at least like to go and see the lore and the storyline and the quest attached to said item, because it is genuinely well fitting in the Star Wars universe. When it comes to progression in the game, instead of a leveling system, thank God, they have something where basically you find these legendary contacts that give you special abilities like slicers, like better gunfighting abilities, better speeder abilities, and the way to level up these abilities is to actually complete challenges that pertain to these actual abilities. I'm saying abilities a lot, but I prefer this kind of a leveling system, this progression mechanic, because I at least want to feel that if I want to get better at hacking in a video game, I should probably be hacking a bunch of times and then leveling up that specific tree that way, versus arbitrarily raising an amount of experience points by gunning down people for 8 hours and then just investing those skill points, not in the assault trees, but in all the stealth stuff. At least make me do stealth so my character progresses in the stealth field. So I do enjoy it like that. And honestly, it leads to something which I enjoy even more, where you can actually play through the game at a pace you enjoy, not locked behind some level gaining nonsense where you have to level up 5 times in order to match up to a certain group of enemies you're going up against. The game prioritizes stealth, and it knows with stealth, one-hit takedowns are pretty much your bread and butter, so there's no way that they can implement a leveling system without making it feel like a cheap nonsense shooter to begin with. So I do appreciate all of that going in forward, okay?
Now, something this game does is it has a criminal network reputation system. So you got 3 groups, the Pike Syndicate, Crimson Dawn, and the Hutt Cartel, and you got to balance your respect between each of them. And I feel like this is an interesting play on a feature literally from Grand Theft Auto 2 back in the PlayStation 1, where per level you actually had 3 different criminal groups that you were actually trying to favor. So in order to do a mission for one, you had to be in their good graces, but being in the good graces of one meant losing the respect of the other. So you had to balance the respectometer in order to actually not get killed on the street and be able to complete the entire mission. So I feel like this is a kind of a nod to that, and yeah, that's one of the things I noticed. The other thing was the big part of this game is using Nyx, which is this critter sidekick you have to steal and do things from a distance. So when you're attacking somebody, you can tell this critter to attack, you can tell Nyx to steal items or pickpocket people or blow things up, which is cool until you realize that, yeah, this is just Shadow from Dead to Rights 2, the dog that you can send to grab guns and kill people and be your sidekick. So again, being a gamer that has played so many video games in my time, nothing that I've seen here is so uniquely handled. But it's not bad, it's just nothing that's going to blow my mind.
But ultimately, the last part of this video, the final piece that I really want to discuss, and one thing that I really think needs to be addressed by the developers, is the severe performance issues on PC. Now, this game is a game with forced ray tracing, meaning you can't turn it off. From what I understand, you actually need a ray tracing card to play this game, period. Now, the thing is, on lower settings, it'll be fine. But if you have a higher end PC like me, running the game on higher settings, ultra settings, I don't really think ultimately provides you much of a benefit. With all of the ray tracing settings enabled, I still managed to find some aspects of the game's ray tracing where it just didn't even feel like it was working. For instance, I was able to see screen space reflection artifacting literally a few feet away from my character. Normally, what you're seeing here with this red doorway shouldn't be happening. Basically, my character is getting in the way of the red doorway, and it's basically making the actual reflection around her legs look broken. And that's typically a sign of screen space reflection stuff. If this was actual ray tracing, this artifacting and visual noise wouldn't be an issue. But I've seen this constantly throughout the game. So I'm wondering, is the ray tracing actually even working, or is it just consuming frames for no reason? Even with the RTX DI mode, which is like their path tracer or their more extreme ray tracer, I still see these issues. And look, no one's denying the game looks good. But honestly, at this point, I would say Cyberpunk 2077 looks as good, or not as good, actually light years better than this game. That actually looks like a real ray tracing showcase. And I'm somebody that loves talking about ray tracing. I think that games like Doom 2 ray tracing look absolutely brilliant and are a real showcase for the technology. Something like Star Wars just feels like it's actually chewing through my system for no real reason. And honestly, that isn't even including the fact that in order to get the frame rate I'm showing you, I have to enable all forms of assists. So I have to get ray reconstruction on, and then I have to enable frame generation, which generates fake frames in order to make the game reach 60, 70 frames per second. So in reality, without any of these assists, you're looking at my 4090 running the game at around 4K with like 30 frames. And that's with DLSS, which runs the game at lower resolutions and upscales them through AI. So if I have to go through all of that just for this performance, it makes no sense whatsoever. And honestly, just for comparison's sake, I decided to put on Star Wars Jedi Survivor on the PlayStation 5. And even just on the cinematic mode with Coruscant, the initial city, it looked light years better than whatever this game was bringing to the table. So whatever performance I'm getting is not indicative of the actual, game's visual look. It just doesn't make, like, the game looks good. It just doesn't look good enough to warrant the performance. I would go as far as to say games like Red Dead Redemption 2 look way better than Star Wars Outlaws, but somehow consume far less of the resources on my system. I would say that there's plenty of other titles like Cyberpunk 2077 that are worthy of the same performance profile this game forces you to be at, but look way better and are designed way better for the style that the game wants to promote. But ultimately, in the end, Star Wars Outlaws is, without a doubt, one of the more mediocre games that I've played. It's probably the better Ubisoft game that I've seen, but that's not saying much. And look, at the end of the day, should you pick this game up from Ubisoft? Probably not. I would actually say that you should wait for a sale, a big sale, or buy it used. Actually buy it used. Hurt Ubisoft's bottom line, okay? Tell them to stop killing games in a lot of ways. If you gotta buy this game, buy for PlayStation or Xbox, buy like a used physical copy so it hurts them in the sales, I guess. Honest to God, I really do mean that, especially for a company like Ubisoft. Have your fucking cake and eat it too. But yeah, this is Star Wars Outlaws, and I've been playing this game for the last couple days, and I've had a lot of stuff to say about it. But yeah, I don't want to jump on the hate bandwagon and say this is the worst game ever made, because it really isn't. But is it a game that's like this 10 out of 10 experience that some of the Redditors are kind of like touting it as? I think that's also copium. Let's just keep it what it is. It's a serviceable open world Ubisoft title, and it's going to be a great sale game a month from now, because honestly, that's when it's going to start hitting some sales. But yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan and you just want to explore the universe, I think they did a pretty good job. I think honestly, if you gave this development team enough time and resources and another crack at it, you could probably see like a seriously amazing Knights of the Old Republic game being made from them. But that's a whole different story for a different time. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.